Hello, you've caught me on top of a metaphorical diving board. Below me a glistening pool of next-gen wonders, the PlayStation 5, winking seductively, enticing me to dive in headfirst. And I want to, PS5, I'm going to do it, I'm going to jump, but before I do, I just want to take a moment to reflect. Because also below me, but just to the side, I can see lush rolling hills of memory, airy summits and warm valleys, marking my journey through 7 wonderful years of PS4. Right, let's get on with it. There have been some truly special moments on PS4 since 2013, and I'm about to pick out 7 of my absolute favourites, one for each year, that I think every PS4 owner should experience. Naturally, this is a personal list, and picking just 7 has been next to impossible, so please get in the comments and let us know your own generation-defining moments. Also, this list will contain some spoilers, so check the timestamps in the description if you want to skip anything. Right, our first entry covers both 2014 and the 2 months of 2013 that had PS4 in them, November and December. A minor retcon of the rules of this list I've made just so I can talk about the water graphics in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. There's one very specific moment I remember as being the thing that made me think, oh yes, PS4 is here, this is next gen. And it's in that mission early on when Edward Kenway and his freshly formed crew of miscreants commandeer the Jackdaw, the ship that essentially acts as your home for the rest of the adventure. It's your typical why isn't anything simple video game set piece. First you have to sneak through and free all the prisoners, then you have to leap across to the Jackdaw, take the helm and escape a fleet of cannonball spewing baddie boats, while a hurricane turns the surrounding sea into the sort of ravenous foaming leviathan that eats ships for breakfast. I mean, this is the game teaching you how to sail, for crying out loud. The virtual equivalent of going the wrong way down the M25 at rush hour for your first driving lesson. But anyway, you deal with it, blowing enemy vessels literally out of the water and then quite often watching them sink under it. And then it happens. Rogue Wave, says the game as matter of fact as you like. Face them head on and you'll be fine. And then you see it. A rolling mountain of water, thundering towards you, its boiling crest of foam a staggering visual indicator of just how high this thing is. You shape up, feeling a bit like George Clooney at the end of A Perfect Storm, and let the thing hit you. This felt symbolic. As I lurched up the wave at almost 180 degrees, I was a player of PS3 games. As I crested and plummeted down the other side, I was a PS4 player. It was like a baptism, next-gen style. As someone who is a complete sucker for water graphics, seeing this in action was just awesome. Literally awesome. I mean, it wasn't just some ore, was it? It was lots of ore, or lots. That's the only way I can describe how I felt here. We're spoiled now with water tech, aren't we? The Last of Us Part 2's wet stuff looks fantastic. The rivers and waterfalls of Death Stranding just, oh. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey's ocean is a technical marvel, continuing a legacy that started here in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Welcome to Next Gen. What a moment. We're heading into 2015 for our next entry, a year that gave us The Witcher 3, Metal Gear Solid 5, Batman Arkham Knight, Fallout 4, Rocket League, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and loads more lovely games full of amazing moments. But the one we're going for is simply Yharnam. But Rob, I hear you shout, Yharnam is not a moment, it's a place. And what's more, it's a place in Bloodborne, a game you never even finished. And to both of those completely reasonable retorts, I say, yes, but has there been any other place on PS4 that captured the imagination quite like Yharnam? This beautifully grotesque gothic tangle, a choking mess of secret ways, streets that twist like broken limbs, a jagged skyline killing moonlight, a thick underbelly of tunnels and sewers, rotting from prolonged contact with themselves. Everyone who's played Bloodborne has their own moment in Yharnam. This place is full of the startled memories of the people who've passed through it, and you can feel it too, a sort of heavy fog of collective consciousness that occasionally manifests as ghostly replays of game overs, the echoes of those who came and failed before you. There are jolts of set-piece excitement here for sure when you beat your first boss or nail a counter shot, for instance. But as a moment, it's hard to look past the city as a whole. Yharnam is something special, and I should know, because I never got past here, my hunter immortalised on the fringes of old Yharnam, reeling from both the shock of beating Father Gascoigne and also a sort of pre-ordered terror at what might be next. And yet it still feels permanently seared into my experience of PS4. The moment Yharnam swallows you. That's what this entry is. 2016 was also pretty good, wasn't it? Remember Overwatch and Dark Souls 3 and Final Fantasy 15 and The Last Guardian and... what was that other one? Oh yeah, Uncharted 4. But the moment I've gone for is putting on a PlayStation VR headset for the first time. The feeling you get inside virtual reality is one that eludes description other than loads of irritating people like us saying things like, it feels like you're there and you just have to try it. But those two things are true, you just do. I remember my VR moment coming when I played Ocean Descent, part of PlayStation VR World, and coming face to face with a life-sized great white shark, which I think is the true magic of VR. You know, you actually get a true sense of the size of things. Amazing when seeing a majestic 18-foot apex predator tearing your flimsy cage a new one. Not quite so amazing when you realise Skyrim's giant frostbite spiders are actually about 3 meters tall and very, very fast. Anyway, I digress. The actual entry here belongs to Astro Rescue Mission, a game that came out in 2018, and I'm putting in here because I'm a big cheat, but also because this game deserves all its many accolades and then some. It's not just the best VR platformer, it's one of the best platformers of the generation on any platform. So inventive, so charming, so vibrant and surprising. Astrobot plays with virtual reality and by extension with you, the player, with all the thrilling finesse of an expert juggler throwing flaming knives about. You know, you feel like part of the world, part of the danger, teetering on the brink, while at all times knowing you're in the safest hands imaginable. This is a game that simply wouldn't work if you played it outside of virtual reality, such as Astrobot's bespoke construction, every frame of it designed to exhilarate the one inside the headset. You are at once player, viewer and active participant when you experience Astrobot Rescue Mission, and seeing the eponymous hero waving enthusiastically as you guide him through a beautifully designed platform adventure is a moment we will always remember. It's our 2017 moment next, and what a banger of a year this was. Nier Automata, Neo, Resident Evil 7 and Horizon Zero Dawn all arrived, giving us moments like this. This. And this. But the one I've gone for, and get ready to be unsurprised, regular viewers, comes from What Remains of Edith Finch. Now, spoilers ahead if you haven't yet played this game, and I do insist you play it. Right, ready? Okay. Even in a game about reliving the tragic deaths of multiple members of the Finch family, Lewis Finch's coronation scene is a standout. It's so beautifully done, so harrowing, so devastating, and unlike anything I've ever seen in a game before or since. Lewis works in a mundane job at a cannery, grabbing a fish, chopping its head off, grabbing a fish, chopping its head off, over and over. And you do this too, the real world played out in thankless repetition on the right of the screen, while Lewis's dream world gradually obscures everything on the left. I mean, just mechanically, this sequence has to be lauded. The way the daydream starts small, a top-down, two-dimensional labyrinth, and slowly becomes larger and deeper the further Lewis sinks into his delusion. colour blooms. We're now playing in 3 dimensions in the style of an isometric RPG, and all the while, cut, cut, cut. The movement on the right played with such rhythmic consistency, it bleeds into your muscle memory, becoming a thing of numb instinct. The daydream eventually expands into a full-blown first-person sequence as Lewis, bypassing his broken self in an out-of-body experience, ascends the steps of his fully formed imaginary kingdom, heralded by musicians, surrounded by colour and cheer. And then he is crowned.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
It's 2018 now, and Entry 5 has some big spoilers for God of War, so if you haven't played this masterpiece yet, you know what to do. Now, we all know 2018 God of War was a big moment for Kratos, a game that saw him leave his monstrous past of ripping apart all of Greek mythology and embrace his new life, ripping apart all of Norse mythology instead. I jest, of course. This is the story of Kratos as a person, as a parent, his tragic humanity weighing every bit as heavy on the narrative scales as his spectacular divinity. This shift in perspective is both symbolic and literal, God of War pulling the focus to Kratos the human with a new, more intimate camera angle and a fresh weapon, the Leviathan axe. As a result, combat feels pleasingly chunky. The axe has a wonderful weight to it, and you can really feel the crunch as you hack through enemies, and the oh-so-satisfying thunk as you summon it back into your hand. But then the moment comes. As God of War is gearing up for its final act, Kratos is forced to dig up his past, again both literally and metaphorically. To save his son Atreus, Kratos must reattach the blades of chaos, physically binding himself to his bloody past in order to protect his future.
But there is one unavoidable truth you will never escape. You cannot change. You will always be a monster.
I know. But I am your monster no longer.
And then you fight with the Blades of Chaos for the first time in years, and in a moment of both regret and elation, you swing and cleave through helpless enemies in a manner that evokes the Kratos of old, a man focused and powerful. Although crucially, this is still the new Kratos. Now you're swinging these things not for vengeance, not to settle any kind of personal score, but for the sake of someone else. A wonderful way for the character of Kratos to fold back on himself, like forging hot steel, new layers seared into the old. So symbolic, such powerful, so moment. Ready for 2019? Okay, here we go. My personal game of the year for 2019 was Death Stranding, and I hope you're sitting comfortably because I'm about to guff on about how exploring the open world of Hideo Kojima's melancholy masterpiece was my standout PS4 moment of the year. Sorry. Death Stranding's world felt like the summit of a mountain video games had been collectively scaling for the last few years, a shift away from waypoints, health bars, minimaps and all that other HUD clutter. Here was a world that wanted you to learn its geography, to find your way not through blips of gamey signpostage, but by connecting with the landscape in a way that felt real and grounded. Death Stranding's world map is not one of coloured GPS lines squashed in the corner. It's one you build in your mind. You'll learn the rivers, mountain passes and waterfalls through instinct and memory, picking routes that both avoid mules and BTs and also allow you to appreciate the annihilating enormity of it all. standing on top of an escarpment, looking down at the path you've trodden, stretching away for miles until it's eventually swallowed by the haze of distance, revelling in the wonderful loneliness of it all. Oh, heaven, if you ask me. This is a de-gamified open world, and by that I mean it's a world completely indifferent to your attempts at navigating it, a place that concedes nothing, no yellow handholds, no conveniently lit pathways, no visual language to tell you which surfaces are scalable and which aren't. It's just rock, water and sky, the ropes and ladders left by other players, no guarantee of safe passage. This freedom was both thrilling and terrifying, and getting to know this most unique of places was easily one of my favourite moments of the entire generation. Our final entry is from 2020 and is probably the most momenty moment on this entire list. But when this happened towards the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, yes, spoilers again, I could have just cried with happiness. The hero moment, when it looks like everything has gone down the pan. Barrett, Aerith and Red 13 cornered by Heidegger and his Shinra grunts. The last stand. And then... Be still, my beating 11-year-old heart. I mean, I've gone on for way too long on the channel already about why I love this game so much and what it means to me, blah-de-blah. But this moment, oh, I whooped and cheered like no one could hear me. It's so iconic. And to see it fleshed out like this, Cloud bursting onto the scene on his hardy Daytona with Remake's gorgeous visuals, that thumping score. Oh, I'm out of words now. So yeah, just stick your own favourite PS4 moments in the comments. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And click that notification bell to make sure you don't miss anything from the world of PlayStation. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.